Just recently, I was given 2 big trash bags full of fabric from a friend. And I wasn't for sure what I was going to do with the fabric once I started looking at it all. But when I started looking through the fabrics, I was reminded of kennel quilts or kennel pads, and I thought, well, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll turn some of this really cute fabric into kennel quilts. I have so many other quilts. I wanted to do something a little bit different. And I thought this might be a good use for some of that fabric because some of them had cats and dogs and other animals on it. And so I thought that might be a fun way to use up this fabric. In this video, I'll be showing you how I've made these kennel quilts. I'll be giving you some tips for making these quilts. And I'll be giving you a resource that you can look into if you want to make kennel quilts. I wasn't for sure what size to make the kennel quilts, and before I started, I decided just to call our local animal shelter and see if they could even use anything like this. So I called, I explained who I was and that I had made dog beds for the shelter before, but I wanted to know if they were interested in kennel quilts, and they said they were absolutely interested. So I asked them to tell me what sizes they needed. They gave me 3 different sizes, and the size I've made here, these are 21 by 28 inches. And that's just based on what they said they needed. So the first tip I wanted to share with you is if you're wanting to make them locally, please be sure to call your local animal shelter and see, number 1, if they can use it, and number 2, what sizes they need. Now there is a project called Kennel Quilts, and if you go to kennelquilts.com, it can tell you more about it. Those quilts are 12 by 18 inches, and you can make those and you can send them in. But I really wanted to make some for our local animal shelter. So these sizes are a little bit different than those made for the project for Kennel Quilts. And again, if you want to know more about that, you can go to kennelquilts.com. The next tip I want to give you is to use 100% cotton material. And I think that's important because you want to be sure you're using fabrics that don't shred easily or shed a lot of lint. And for the batting, I've also used 100% cotton. The next tip is to use fabric that's been donated to you or fabric in your stash that you're no longer in love with. Use that fabric that you just would like to get rid of. It'll make great kennel quilts. Also, as I was looking through the fabric, I'm going to avoid using whites and creams and solids that would show stains easily. Kennel Quilts website did recommend using small stitches, and I thought this was a good idea, and that is to help prevent the dog's or cat's toenails from getting caught in the stitches, and I could see that that could be an issue. The website also recommended not to use binding, so I just did a sew and turn method for making the kennel quilt, and I did choose a 1-block quilt. I pieced the back of one, but I just, as you can see, it's just one solid piece of fabric. Now on the back of this one, I pieced the back of that, which you'll see in just a little bit. But I think that that's important to not have the binding. They say that their concern is that if that comes loose, if a dog chews on it, they could get entangled in it and get harmed that way. So no bindings and no tying quilts. They don't want any tied quilts because dogs or cats will chew on that, and they don't want those to be swallowed. And I do remember our vet, Milo's really bad about eating lots of stuff he shouldn't, and he told me he was always most concerned when they ate things like string. Kennel Quilt website, they do recommend to limit the use of fusibles and appliques. Now I'm not going to use those because I like to do a blanket stitch, and again I think that could be a way for toenails to get caught on there. Plus, Milo, I think he would like the smell of the adhesive, and I think he would want to eat it then. I know we can't smell the adhesive, but dogs can smell, have an incredible sense of smell, so I'm not going to use any type of adhesive for my kennel quilts. They also recommend no metallic threads and no embellishments, which that makes sense. You don't want a dog to chew up a button and swallow that. Milo would chew those off and he would crunch them and eat them, so you don't want to endanger the animals in any way. So no embellishments and no metallic threads. I pre-wash my fabrics, and they did recommend pre-washing the fabrics also because they said that animals have allergies. Now, this is going to be a great way to practice free motion quilting or straight line quilting. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know, they are for a good cause. They're to help provide comfort for the animals at the shelter, but it's okay if it's not 100% perfect. Because remember, it doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful. And I think that these two mats will be used and loved by those animals. As I made these two, I really thought about how I could produce these a little bit faster. And if I had streamlined the production, it would have been a little bit easier. So what I'll do in the future is I will do all my cutting and pinning. I'll do all my cutting at one time and my pinning at one time and sewing around the outside at one time and turning it inside out at one time, and then doing the machine quilting, you know, one right after another. I think that's going to speed up the process quite a bit for me there. So do think about ways you can streamline your production. On these kennel quilts, I didn't really worry about the design. The fabric was so cute. I wasn't going to, you know, try to piece a star or a bone or a paw. But I do want to share with you that the kennelquilts.com website does have some free patterns if you want to do more than just, you know, a one block quilt like what I've done. And I also thought that all those orphan blocks that we have, that would make a great kennel quilt too. They don't just have to be one block like what I've done. You can do them however you want. So those are the tips that I wanted to share with you. I'll review these a little bit more as I'm showing you how to make these. But let's go ahead and get started with my showing you how to make these great little projects. Before I get started showing you how I just put these together, I just wanted to show you some of the fun fabrics that I've had to work with, and this is just a few of them. The lady who gave me all this fabric had a big collection of motorcycle things and of bugs and of animals. So here's some of the bug ones. Here's some pigs riding motorcycles. This is just patriotic. This is a Harley Davidson print and a motorcycle print. But these are going to be fun to put together. Now I have decided on just using the one block method, but you can certainly do piecing if you'd like. This would be a great way to use some of your leftover orphan blocks. Let me show you this fun fabric. It says little cats riding a motorcycle, and I just tried to pick somewhat of a coordinating background fabric from what I was given. This is just, you know, just a basic quilt sandwich. And I laid this out on my larger mat and I cut it all at the same time so my edges would meet up. You could see I put the batting down first and then the two fabrics right sides together. Because as I sew around this, I'm just going to turn it inside out. I will not be putting a binding on these. The Kennel Quilts site recommends no binding. So I've just pinned all the way around there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start sewing and I'm going to leave an opening. And I'm going to leave it pretty big so it'll be easy to turn right sides out. I'm not going to use 1/4 of an inch, I'm going to use 1/2 an inch, and I'm going to go all the way around the quilt. Alright, as you can see, I've sewn my 1/2 an inch seam all the way around. You can see in the corner, and I did do a back tack to make that corner a little bit stronger because I'll be trimming that off. But I'm just going to remove these pins. Alright, and here's my opening, and as you can see, I left a pretty good size opening there so that it would be easy for me to turn this inside out. Oh wait, before I do that, I'm just going to take the corners and I'm just going to clip straight across to help reduce the bulk there. Turning those corners. One more. Where'd the opening go? The opening's back over here. And by leaving a little bit bigger hole, it's going to be a little bit easier to turn right side out. Now I am going to take this to the ironing board, and I'm going to turn right here, I'm going to turn down 1/2 of an inch. And I'm going to give that a good press. I'm going to press that seam out there. And then I'm going to go to my machine and I'm going to do a stitch all along the outside. Now as you can see, I've just pressed it really nice, and I'm just going to go to my machine and I'm going to close this up right here with just doing a stitch all the way around. Now this one is ready to be quilted. Now when this one is ready to be quilted, you can see I've gone all the way around the edge and I secured the opening there where the seam was. Where the opening was, I've secured that. Now one thing that I want to be careful of when I machine quilted is I want to be sure that it's going to be durable, and I don't want the stitching to come loose. So what I'm thinking about doing is, again, just doing a meandering stitch. I really like the straight line stitching, but I think I'm going to do the meandering stitch again. You can see I did the meandering stitch here. Now I'm not very good at that, and I need more practice, but this is a project that's going to help me get more practice. And this one has 2 layers of batting. This has 2 layers of batting and this has 1. And I'm going to see which one they prefer for the kennels. I think either of them will be nice. This one may be too bulky. It's pretty padded. I used a good 100% cotton batting in there. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to machine quilt this one. And again, I'm going to take it to them and see which one they like. Alright, I just wanted to show you. I went ahead and machine quilted this, and it turned out pretty nice. I still need a lot of practice. It was a little jerky on some spots, but this will help me to get better at doing that. I really do. I hope you all have enjoyed this video. Please be sure to, again, tell me if you've made kennel quilts in the comments below. Tell me if you made them for your own local shelter or if you made them for the Kennel Quilts project. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, have fun quilting.